Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bertram with Restaurant Solutions. Thank you for joining us today. I'm joined today by Jake Nolte, the GM for the Efficient Hire Applicant Tracking Solution. And Jake, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Definitely. I think there's been a lot of things moving in the world today, and especially as it relates to common mistakes we see people making within selecting an applicant tracking system. What do you see from your perspective?
Yeah, great question. Really too often we see restaurants using recruiting and ATS solutions that were just designed for large corporate companies with salaried employees, low turnover, or have a dedicated HR manager at their disposal. Those solutions are all great, but they did not support the more challenging environments that restaurants have in hiring hourly employees with high turnover, or a location manager that has multiple responsibilities and probably no background or training in recruiting or the hiring process. We also see employers using a standalone ATS solution, which, although is helpful in improving a recruiting and hiring process, it still requires manual data entry and leading to mistakes and slowing the recruiting and hiring process down overall. And so that is one, great thing about this RSI solution with Efficient Hire is, it is fully integrated. So it supports the full life cycle and the recruiting and the applicant tracking all the way to onboarding through I-9 and even WOTC. So all the data flows seamlessly right into RSI's payroll solution.
Nice. Yeah, I think for our clients, it's been extremely beneficial to have the employee details come right through into the website, kind of go through and accept those employees, but also really highlight the discrepancies if there are, I guess, duplicate entries, and be able to clear those out. That way we don't have redundancy within employee profiles. Now, I know alongside this, there's been a slight change to our world in recent months with this little thing called COVID. And what have you seen, or how have you seen restaurants transition or change their recruiting processes to handle the COVID world?
Yeah, I think COVID has impacted many areas of the restaurant world, to say the least. But when it comes to recruiting, really what we've seen is, there are many times no more in-person interactions. There's requirements for social distancing, which limits then that interaction with the applicant and the hiring manager, or really the reduced paper application and process that most restaurants have oftentimes, and really just the need for being virtual. This has demanded the need for a streamlined process or an improved process than what most restaurants have in place today. And all of these changes put more pressure on that location or hiring manager. So the more we can support them with that streamlined solution to simplify their recruiting and onboarding process, the better off they're going to be.
Makes perfect sense. And I guess alongside that, dealing with paper processes and especially now, what kind of a day in the life of what a manager looks like. It's not just table touching and closing out shifts. Oftentimes, what they're doing is actually working shifts, covering shifts for employees that are either feeling unwell or possibly just need to take a break from the business because they're overwhelmed. How can restaurants really make it easier for managers to work within the hiring process?
Yeah, we hear it every day is I don't have enough time to recruit, or I'm not getting enough candidates. Someone applied, but they got a job across the street to my competitor, location. And so the key is to build a process in place and put a process in place that makes the recruiting a no-brainer for the managers, especially when they have limited to no time and, oftentimes no background in that hiring process. And so really the longer it takes managers to hire, the harder it's going to be. And so that's where what our ATS has done is to build technology to take work off those managers and support that streamlined process. The ATS solution was built specifically for restaurant and hospitality clients because users are constantly on the go. Speed is critical in the recruiting process, and we know that it's not realistic for these hiring managers to sit behind a computer all day waiting for new candidates to apply. They're at the cashier, they're cleaning the bathroom in some cases. And so with our system, the users will now be able to receive an email or even a text notification when a new candidate has applied. That link will then take them directly to a dashboard to review them and that resume right there on their phone, where then they can access and have the ability to text back and forth with that candidate to set up the interview or whatever next steps may be right through the system, but on their phone, on the go, wherever they may be throughout the day. And then they can even move that candidate into the onboarding, again, right from the solution, whether that's accessed on their computer or on their phone. And so they can easily stay on top of all their candidates and their hiring process while actively managing their store as they do all day throughout the day.
So really, I guess with all of these processes in place and an increase in frequency, and I guess the engagement with applicants, really, what are some ways that a restaurant can get more applicants in the first place? Right now, we're dealing with, I think, a lot of individuals that are employed, they're looking for a job, or they're applying for multiple jobs, trying to just get whatever comes back to them first. How can a restaurant or specifically a manager increase the amount of applicants coming into them?
Yeah, there are three key areas a restaurant really should address that we've been able to see is, first, convert more candidates with a streamlined process that is mobile friendly. Ultimately, candidates are not going to complete a long application process, or especially today, as we already addressed, going to come into a store to fill out a paper application. So having that streamlined process that's easy, simple, and mobile first will absolutely help get more applicants in the hands of hiring managers. Two is to really kind of take a more analytical look at where you're attracting those candidates, and we'll address that in a second. But then, and last is, make better use of the candidates you already get. More candidates solves the problem sometimes, but there's more to that equation. You oftentimes get enough candidates, and it's about how do you take advantage of the ones that are in your hands. So some examples of what I meant by that is, or what we've seen other customers do, is really sell the brand and the restaurant and the business to those potential applicants. Reevaluate your job titles. Look at the job description and benefits, and highlight some of those key drivers that, again, is your brand, is your restaurant. That way, you can talk about your culture and et cetera, other things that would help drive applicants wanting to be a part of your team. Additionally, you may want to maximize the application conversion rates from those channels, and that's kind of where looking at that analytics is super important. Is so you're improving the places you are, driving applicants from, and then ultimately is make it easy to apply to your job in less than 3 minutes. Whether that is on a computer or more importantly on a phone, and even through text messaging. This makes it easier for candidates to find and apply to your position, whether that be a referral from a friend, whether that be on your career page, on your social media avenues, or various job boards, to the walk-in flyer or advertisement that's on your door as you walk into the restaurant. All of those channels can drive more conversion of your applicants when that process is streamlined, for them. This will help get more applicants and overall maximize, those conversion rates for you.
Love it. And I think those are, excellent ways to kind of drive the volume of getting applications in the door. Have you been able to, through, I guess, your knowledge with applicant tracking and more importantly onboarding as well, be able to find some specific processes that have helped with determining better qualified applicants?
Yeah, especially in the restaurant industry, oftentimes your customers are your potential candidates. So again, that's where it's important to sell that brand and highlight the culture and benefits of your organization, which will help drive and attract that top talent. So other ways to do that is getting specific and asking custom questions that you feel are important or will help more about the candidate and their skill sets and experience that help determine, is this someone that you ultimately want to move forward with or not. That will help, like I said, identify those top candidates with those preferred requirements. So you can focus on those people and focus on that during your recruiting efforts first before maybe having to tap into, more applicants down the road. And that can be done through this ATS solution. It allows you to screen candidates with questions customized for you and for your organization, as well as automate, have the ability for automated phone interview questions that can be simple for the candidate to answer. This way, now as a restaurant, you're actually able to hear and listen to that candidate's response, which may be more detailed than you would get on just a paper application or a general resume. We've seen restaurants really utilize this from some of those, front of house or, very customer focused roles.
Nice. I know, especially as we've been working with a lot of our restaurants on the strategies they need to implement in order to be sustainable and successful through not only these past few months, but the months ahead of us as well. A lot of our focus has been on really paying attention to their cash position and their budgets. And I think that also applies to hiring and recruiting employees, because there are job boards all over the place that you can invest in. You can pump dollars and a substantial amount of I think, your revenue into just finding, sourcing, and hiring good employees. Do you see restaurants using, or are some restaurants better at effectively managing their job advertising spend than others?
Yeah, having a defined advertising strategy across your organization is crucial. Otherwise you're just posting and praying that your job posts are getting enough applicants and that you need to fill your roles. We see a lot of restaurants that don't have this defined strategy, which then leads to increased cost and a lot of time, honestly, wasted by those managers deciding where they should spend that money and advertise that job to get their jobs filled. As well, most hiring managers are left to do this on their own and decide where to post that job without that expertise or really understanding of, which channels are going to drive the best traffic. So a defined strategy across the organization really helps managers feel empowered to know, that they're in line with their organization and what they're doing versus each individual having to make that decision for themselves. So some ways to accomplish this is to really, like I said, define that strategy and make improvements to get more candidates and, build that process internally so that you have transparency across, which channels are ultimately being successful and which channels are not. Through our ATS solution, we give you that transparency. We show you, where the jobs are, where the candidates are coming from, and, where that is being done for you versus needing to have that manager make those decisions on their own.
Perfect. And I think you mentioned some absolutely valid points there, especially about having kind of a defined process, right? I think there's too many moving parts within trying to find people, trying to manage a restaurant, trying to cook food, trying to clean the bathrooms. I guess where I got stuck a lot of times was actually washing dishes. So maybe not as bad as cleaning the bathrooms at certain times. But really, how do you see, how a restaurant can define their recruiting process in place for really all of their hiring managers?
Yeah, I think by following some very simple best practices, you can really see and improve those hiring results very easily. First, with it's extremely competitive out there for employers that and these hiring managers, and so they need to be fast and responsive to those candidates. The average hourly worker applies to over 10 jobs at a time, which means speed is of the essence. If your hiring managers think that you're a good fit for the open position, so do the other employers across the street that you're competing against. And so if another employer reaches to them first, they may abandon their application with you and go with them. So it's all about speed and efficiency in getting to those candidates. Managers really need the tools in place to make that process easier, like the ability to text back and forth them. Candidates aren't picking up the phone of a random phone number or responding or even looking at their email on a daily basis, but everyone has their phone in their hand or in their pocket all the time. So restaurant owners really just need that transparency and reporting to hold their hiring managers accountable And that's what, the solution again supports those best practices, such as the speed to review and presenting those metrics to the team so that they know, one, are they getting enough applicants, but then two, are they being efficient with the applicants that they're getting?
Perfect. I guess really as business owners, oftentimes we'll really hone in on the KPIs and our cash position and our overall profitability. Really kind of how much money is our business generating? How much money we're making? How sustainable are we? How would you be able to take that kind of philosophy and then measure the performance and the overall effectiveness of your hiring efforts?
Yeah, most people or organizations, don't know what to measure. So reporting and analytics, that ultimately drives the accountability. So in our solution, we provide reports that help drive this both at an admin level as well as just the individual hiring manager level. For instance, at the admin level, the accountability and insight into all of your operations via this reporting, hiring managers, insight into what they're doing and into their perspective. So, first, you need to have that technology that allows you to measure the performance. Then you can start to focus on where you can improve. For example, application conversion rates, job board conversion rates, the recruiter responsiveness, the recruiter response times, the average time it takes to reach out to a candidate. All of these things go into ultimately then driving, one, are you getting enough hires? And then two, what are those costs per hire that you're making? So having that data, having that analytics in front of you is crucial to make sure you're running your business the most effectively. And, our solution provides that reporting so you can look across and into your locations and see how quickly your hiring managers are engaging with candidates. Most owners have locations where they continually struggle to get enough candidates, and that we have found is oftentimes that it's because the hiring manager at those locations is not following up and following those best practices to reach out to applicants as quickly as possible, and therefore, the candidates are gone by the time they even reach out.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess consistency across multiple locations within a brand can definitely be a cause to some headaches, especially as you look at larger groups and the different management styles we have. I didn't work the same as my AGM. I didn't work the same as the other GMs that were at my same level within our restaurant concept. So, absolutely valid points. Do you see, process changes that can help kind of streamline all of these moving parts and make it simpler for all of these different people to stay consistent themselves?
Yeah, there are two main factors to making a hire that we see is speed and engagement. And that's where this solution helps with both. And being able to implement this technology in the hands of the hiring manager helps provide that integrated solution to make it easy for all hiring stakeholders, from reviewing all the way then to onboarding and ultimately hiring an individual. The solution is purpose-built to meet the unique needs of that business so you can focus less on hiring and more on your customers and on your business. That's where this ATS solution will improve the recruiting process, and the integrated onboarding solution will just make it easy and seamless to get those new hires on board quickly and ultimately compliantly.
No, I think that's some excellent points there, and really kind of wrapping things up with kind of our focus today on applicant tracking and the recruiting and the hiring process on multiple layers within an organization. I just want to thank everybody for listening in, viewing in, all this fun stuff. Jake, I know you've got a lot of experience in this side of the world. And if you don't mind me asking just one final question, kind of off the cuff, I mean, do you have any final thoughts on either capabilities or systems or thoughts that might be helpful for our viewers or listeners, kind of correlating within their recruiting process?
Yeah, great question. As we mentioned a little bit throughout this conversation, our ATS is integrated with onboarding and RSI's payroll solution, making for one seamless process for all restaurants. Another solution that we have not mentioned is the integration with the WOTC solution, or an integrated WOTC solution. WOTC stands for the people that may not know, is the Worker Opportunity Tax Credit Program, which is a federal tax credit for employers who hire and retain individuals with significant barriers to employment. Some examples of WOTC targeted groups are veterans, long-term unemployed, and others on state assistance programs like food stamps or temporary assistance for needy families, and supplemental Social Security income. To give you a feel for the value of this program, a restaurant with 100 annual hires can expect to earn between $9,000 to $14,000 in annual tax credits.
Wow.
Putting a mobile-first integrated solution that has WOTC at the forefront, this will allow them to spend less time in hiring and more time doing the million of other tasks that they have on their day-to-day, and in some cases, like in the WOTC integration, even get some credits back for their organization.
No, I think that's especially for the smaller companies, those work opportunity tax credits, the WOTC, I think it's extremely underutilized. And simply because for most individuals, it is a beast to manage. And I know from working with Efficient Hire and working with our clients, we've seen some substantial tax credits there. Are there any kind of best practices you see on restaurants that are able to maximize those work opportunity tax credits?
Yeah, well, one of the ways that we've been able to do this is to move that WOTC questionnaire earlier in the process. So now you're able to make your hiring decision based on, whether they're likely to be eligible or not. Because ultimately, if you have two candidates who apply with the same qualifications, hire the one that's WOTC certified. And so what we've been able to do is to move that forward up so the manager knows, is one applicant going to be potentially WOTC eligible? Obviously, the official process is a little bit, longer down the road, but the earlier we can provide some of that detail, the more information on the candidates that we can provide the hiring managers, such as if they're, WOTC eligible, the better and the more informed you're making your hiring decision. And ultimately, the ability that you could maximize some of those opportunities, such as hiring the WOTC candidate versus hiring someone that's not.
Yeah, I've looked at it from a perspective that makes perfect sense. Having visibility on, I guess, who you're hiring and what kind of tax credits you might get for hiring them, and be able to identify that early process makes complete sense. So
yeah, and I guess additionally, really, since Efficient Hire is a WOTC processor, this helps ensure that 100% of those candidates will actually complete the WOTC, and that's where that combined solution will allow you to get the absolute maximum credit possible versus hoping that your processor will get those credits down the road for you.
I like it. Awesome. Well, Jake, I don't mean to take up all your day today, but I appreciate the conversation, and you bring up some valid points, I guess, on not only some of the best practices surrounding an applicant tracking and recruiting system, but also how it integrates with RSI, and then really why we've partnered together to bring kind of a seamless solution to our client base. So absolutely thank you for the time and conversation today. And thank you, everybody, for listening in on this week's RSI Tip Share. Have a great day.